You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to episode 3 of the American Formula One Driver podcast with me, your host, Sam Albuquerque. This podcast series is about one thing: examining and analyzing the concept and impact of an American Formula One driver. We plan on doing that by going through the process of trying to find out who that driver could be. In episode 3, we'll continue doing that by examining the next steps of the Formula One ladder, the FIA Formula 3 and Formula 2 series. We'll also go through the most recent Formula One rookies and their paths to F1 to understand the most common and reliable path to the top of the racing world. After that, we'll compare it to the paths American drivers are currently on and ultimately answer the one question at the core of this podcast: who will be the next American Formula One driver? This is episode 3 of the American Formula One Driver podcast.
And Cross is stopping, and Senna crosses the line before he gets there.
Lewis Hamilton wins the British Grand Prix. A fantastic performance.
Into the first turn we go. Is this the lead now for Rosberg? Hamilton.
Green is clear. The lights go.
Simply put, Formula 3 and Formula 2 are F1's main feeder series. If you want to get to Formula 1, you probably have to go through these two championships. In 2017, the FIA and the GP2 series agreed to rebrand and form a consolidated series that they would call Formula 2. And since that agreement, every driver to earn a seat in Formula 1 has gone through Formula 2. And in 2019, the FIA did the same thing again, just a rung lower on the driver development ladder. They rebranded and consolidated the GP3 series and the European Formula 3 Championship into, you guessed it, Formula 3, creating a supposedly easier and more cost-effective entry point for young drivers pursuing a career in Formula 1. Though F3 can't claim the same success as F2 in producing Formula 1 drivers, that's mainly due to the series' small sample size so far, but they have graduated plenty of drivers into Formula 2. A key point we need to remember in F2 and F3 is that they're a bit different than the American-based series we've talked about so far. You can't just call up the F2 or F3 office and say, hey, here's my money, let me race. You have to go through a team. And whether that's better or worse is hard to tell with teams having seemingly completely different agreements with each individual driver. Not to mention, we have to consider the driver academy part of this equation. Some drivers at this level are part of an F1 team's driver academy or junior driver program, which again complicates things because each F1 team have an individual agreement with each driver that make it difficult to understand the true cost of racing at this level. But the one thing we can assume about the cost is it can get really, really expensive to race in these series. Driver coach Enzo Mucci gives us just a brief idea of what it could cost to race in Formula 3.
F3, we're talking around about, can be more. You know, there's people paying more than this, by the way. 800,000 euros. 800,000 euros to do like 10 rounds. It's expensive. They can name their price. They can keep pushing it until someone says, oh, it's a bit too much, but they can go very high. Now, you can get a drive in F3 for probably 400 because the team will subsidize it. Maybe free. Well, I've had drivers that have paid, it was GP3 back then, but they paid less than they would for a Formula Renault seat.
Given you can write the checks or have the connections to afford to race in these series, winning races is pretty much the only other thing you'll have to do to give yourself the best possible shot to get to Formula 1. And since both of these series' main goal is driver development, the regulations put in place present a level playing field for drivers to allow them to show off their capabilities and be properly evaluated. If you remember back to what Peter Habeck told us in episode 1, we can remember the huge role a car can play in a driver's success or failure at the Formula 1 level.
It varies depending on who you ask, but the winningness of the package, which is the car plus the driver, generally tends to be in favor of about 80% of the car's ability to perform, and then about 20% of the driver. You can have a world championship driver in a very back of the grid car and really have a no win, no hope season. And that I don't think that would serve the ultimate talents of that driver very well.
In Formula One, teams essentially build their own cars. Sure, there are regulations put in place and certain pieces that are required, but for the most part, F1 cars can be drastically different from team to team. That's not true in Formula 2 and Formula 3. These cars are essentially the same. Same motor, same chassis, same tires, pretty much the same everything with a few exceptions here or there. This parity allows drivers to be as properly evaluated as possible in the hope that it will make it easier to find the next Formula One star driver.
That is an absolutely phenomenal drive from Charles Leclerc, who crosses the line to win the sprint race in Bahrain in Formula 2. We're on board with Lando Norris in only his third Formula 2 race. He's going to win it. Lando Norris starts the season. And for the fourth time this season, Nicholas Latifi can see the checkered flag to win in Formula 2. He is the winner.
If you're familiar at all with Formula One, you probably recognize some of those names. Like I mentioned earlier, winning races in Formula 2 and Formula 3 are the best bet any driver can make it to Formula 1. And I say that because it's true. The most recent drivers to earn Formula 1 seats have had a decent amount of success at these levels. And to help us answer the question at the base of this podcast, we took a deep dive into what those drivers did before they got their seat in F1. The first thing we need to establish on this path is that there's only 20 seats available on the F1 grid. And of those seats, 9 of them are held by drivers who have been in the series for more than 6 years. And of those 9, 6 have held those seats for 10 or more seasons. The point is, the scarcity of opportunity to get one of these seats is real. And about half the time, if you get a seat, you hold on to it for at least half a dozen years. But still, since 2017, at least 3 drivers have earned a seat for their full rookie Formula 1 season, minus 2020 when Nicholas Latifi was the only full-time rookie on the grid. That's a total of 15 drivers in 5 years getting a shot to race the majority of an F1 season. Since the establishment of the current F2, F3 ladder in 2019, 8 drivers have made their full season debuts. Antonio Giovinazzi, George Russell, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, Nikita Mazepin, Mick Schumacher, Yuki Tsunoda, and the aforementioned Latifi, with the likes of Jack Aitken and Pietro Fittipaldi making their debut appearances as fill-in drivers in 2020. Aitken once for Williams Racing and Fittipaldi twice for Haas Formula 1 team. To get an idea of what it takes in the current system to get to Formula 1, we're going to look at these 8 drivers and their careers to understand what path American drivers could take to give themselves the best shot at an F1 seat. Starting in 2019, Lando Norris, Alex Albon, George Russell, and Antonio Giovinazzi made their full season Formula 1 debuts.
Teenager Lando Norris starts 8th. Alexander Albon, the Thai driver, on his debut is 13th alongside Antonio Giovinazzi. And the back row is an all-Williams back row. George Russell on debut.
Norris, Albon, and Russell all went through a relatively similar path to get their seat in Formula 1, with Giovinazzi being a bit of an outlier. But we'll get to him later. All 3 of Albon, Norris, and Russell had success in the karting ranks before transitioning to cars at around the ages of 15 and 16, where they all raced in multiple series and had at least one top 3 finish in those series before making the jump to the Formula 3 level. Norris and Russell were 17 and Albon was 19 in their full Formula 3 level debut seasons. Again, all 3 had a top 3 finish at this higher level, with Norris and Russell winning the titles. After success in Formula 3, they moved to Formula 2. Norris at 19, Russell at 20, and Albon at 21 years old, respectively. And again, they all had top 3 finishes at this level. Coincidentally, all coming during the 2018 season, with Russell winning, Norris finishing 2nd, and Albon in 3rd. That's when Formula 1 came knocking in the 2019 season, where all 3 drivers made the step up from Formula 2. Russell joining Williams, which is part of the Mercedes Driver Academy that he joined in 2017. Norris joined McLaren, the team he was a junior driver for since 2016 and reserve driver in 2018. and Albon joining Red Bull Racing's B team, then called Toro Rosso. Albon is also an Academy graduate, joining Red Bull's junior team back in 2012. The fourth and final driver from 2019 is Antonio Giovinazzi, who is one of the outliers from this group of 8. So we'll bunch him together with the other 2 outliers, Nicholas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin. Giovinazzi and Latifi are the 2 oldest drivers to make their full season rookie debuts, with Giovinazzi being 25 and Latifi 24. Both drivers also made the leap to cars a bit older than the rest of the pack, Latifi at 17 and Giovinazzi at 18, and both took 7 years after that transition to make their full Formula One debuts. The main difference between the 2, though, is what makes Giovinazzi more like his fellow 2019 rookies. He had a ton of success in the youth ranks, whereas Latifi didn't. Giovinazzi won his first title in the Formula Pilota China Series, finished second in the British Formula 3 Championship, second in the Formula 3 European Championship, and second in GP2, which became Formula 2, before making a pair of reserve appearances for Sauber's F1 team in 2017, which is part of the Ferrari Academy he's part of. The things that separate him from Norris, Albon, and Russell is that it took another couple of years before he made his full season debut and his later start in open-wheel cars. Latifi, on the other hand, simply didn't have the same success as the other 4 in the youth ranks, despite spending more time than any of them in those ranks. Latifi's lone top 3 finish during his whole youth career came in his 4th season at the F2 level.
And for the 4th time this season, Nicholas Latifi can see the checkered flag to win in Formula 2.
Latifi finished second in 2019 before making the leap to Formula 1 with Williams Racing, where he was an Academy driver since 2019. As for Mazepin, on the surface, he's like neither of those 2. He made the transition to cars at an average age of 16 and made the leap to F3 after only 1 full season, where he didn't have much success, finishing 12th in the Formula Renault series. Mazepin spent 4 seasons at the F3 level and managed to have 2 top 3 finishes, one in the F3 European Championship and the other in the F3 Asian Championship. That was it though. Formula 3 was the only level he managed a top 3 finish in, 0 before and 0 after. Mazepin then moved to Formula 2 in 2020 at 21 years old, where he finished 5th in his lone season at the level, which is the lowest best finish of any of these 8 other drivers. The other glaring difference for Mazepin is he's the only one of these 8 to not be part of an F1 team's academy. Mazepin does have something in common to Nicholas Latifi, though, that could answer the questions that arise about their ability to reach Formula 1. They both have billionaire fathers whose companies sponsor the teams they drive for. Dmitry Mazepin, father of Nikita, is a large shareholder of Haas F1 team's title sponsor, Uralkali. And Michael Latifi, father of Nicholas, is the owner of Sofina Foods, who are one of Williams Racing's largest sponsors. That could be part of the answer to the questions that arise about their opportunities in Formula 1 despite their outlier path. The other 2 drivers in this group are Yuki Tsunoda and Mick Schumacher. Both followed in similar paths to Norris, Russell, and Albon. They transitioned to cars at 16 and had top 3 finishes before jumping to the F3 level. Schumacher made the leap after 1 season and 2 second-place finishes in the German and Italian Formula 4 series, while Tsunoda spent 2 seasons in Formula 4 Japan, finishing 3rd in his first season and winning the series in his second. Schumacher spent 2 seasons in Formula 3, winning the title his second year, while Tsunoda only spent 1 season, finishing 9th, which in and of itself is an outlier in his career. But both made the leap to Formula 2 and had top 3 finishes, Tsunoda in his lone season and Schumacher winning the series in his second season. In 2021, they both made their F1 debuts for the teams part of their driver academies, Tsunoda for Red Bull's AlphaTauri and Schumacher for Haas, which is part of Ferrari's driver academy.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
After going through all 8 of these drivers' careers, here are the key characteristics we identified. 1. You have to have success at the youth ranks. Every driver other than Latifi finished top 3 in a series below the Formula 3 level. 2. Success in Formula 3 is part of the equation, with 6 of the 8 drivers having a top 3 finish on the Formula 3 level. 3. Success at the Formula 2 level is also vital, with 7 of the 8 drivers having a top 3 finish in Formula 2. Another key factor to consider is 7 of the 8 drivers are part of an F1 team's driver academy. And last, another data point to consider is that all 8 drivers were 22 years old or younger when they made their F2 debuts, with an average age of 20. These 5 factors are going to be what we use to help us identify who the next American Formula 1 driver could be. The easiest place to start is to look at the drivers that are at the highest levels of the Formula 1 ladder. Currently in the Formula 3 ranks, there are 3 American drivers and one that started the season but sustained an injury and is no longer in Formula 3. The most successful one is Logan Sargent.
American driver Logan Sargent, for the first time in Formula 3, can call himself a winner.
Sargent has the top 3 finish in F4 we're looking for, and he actually almost won the series outright after taking a massive leap in his second year of Formula 3. At 20 years old, he's just at the right age to make the jump to Formula 2. Sargent also has success in the sub-F3 levels, finishing 3rd in the British and United Arab Emirates Formula 4 series. Where Sargent lacks is resources. He's not part of an academy, and he doesn't have a consistent financial backer like a billionaire father. Next up is Juan Manuel Carrera, who just happens to be the only one of this group to race in Formula 2. Carrera does seem to have the financial backing and is also connected to a junior team, but he doesn't have the racing pedigree at the youth ranks, nor in his stints in Formula 2 or Formula 3. And he's also 22 years old, which is a bit older than we'd like, but we've seen with Latifi and Giovinazzi that age can be just a number. Jack Crawford may be the best bet of the Formula 3 bunch.
Flag is about to wave. He's done it again. Jetpack Jack Crawford, Texas Ranger, wins race 3 in Euro Formula Open.
At only 16 years old, he's already in Formula 3. That's younger than all 8 of the Formula 1 drivers we profiled. Crawford has had success in the youth ranks, finishing 1st in the NACOM Formula 4, 2nd in the German Formula 4, as well as running in 3rd in Euro Formula along with his Formula 3 races. He's also part of the Red Bull Racing Junior team, which means he'll have the resources to continue his development. The only downside I can point to right now is that he's not performing so far this season in Formula 3. But we've seen plenty of drivers make the leap in year 2 of Formula 3. And he's at an age where he can afford to spend even 2 or 3 more seasons at Formula 3 before making the leap to Formula 2. Caitlyn Frederick is the 4th Formula 3 driver who is currently injured and not racing because of it, but he did run in the first 8 races of the season. Caitlyn got into cars early, around 13 years old. He also went overseas early in 2019 to race in British Formula 3 and had a lot of success, coming in 9th.
So Caitlyn Frederick takes the race win and wins the championship as well. He is your 2020 BRDC British Formula 3 champion.
Frederick made his Formula 3 debut at 18, which is on the appropriate timeline, especially if he can get back next season and perform well. Some of the downsides to Frederick is he's not attached to a junior team, and we're not sure if he has the financial backing to continue his race development, and he also didn't perform very well in those 8 Formula 3 races. Going farther down the ranks, there are a few other drivers we can look at as well. Through our conversation with Dakota Dickerson, he pointed at Hunter Yeany. This is what Dakota said.
Hunter Yeany, he won the F4 championship last year. He's doing F3 this year. He's also doing Indy Pro, but he's also been doing a lot of testing over in Europe. Just recently did a British F3 race and finished on the podium there. I think he's definitely somebody that should be looked at and is currently getting looked at by a couple different teams. He's got the right pedigree. He's also just turned 16. So
Yeany's the Formula 4 U.S. champ. He got into cars at 15, and he's already testing overseas in Formula 3. He also seems to have the financial backing, but isn't part of a team yet. Another downside to Yeany is he's not performing right now in Formula Regional Americas. We'll see if that changes.
Clean sweep here in Portimao for Cameron Dass. The American driver makes it 3 from 3 for Team Motor Park to open the 2021.
Cameron Dass can be a wild card. He had success at the youth level. He won the Formula 4 U.S. Championship and finished 3rd in Spanish F3 and is currently leading the Euro Formula Championship. He made his Formula 3 debut in 2020, but it didn't really go well for him. He's also not attached to a team, and he's older. He's 21. Again, with the appropriate backing, theoretically, that could be made up for. Sebastian Montoya is probably the biggest wild card of the American bunch because, well, he might not be American. The Miami-born son of Colombian former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya may race under the Colombian flag instead of the American one. But given he does race as an American, he could be like our version of Mick Schumacher, has a famous dad with backing and connections. He's also having success at the youth level. Currently, he's 2nd and 3rd in the Italian and German Formula 4 championships. He's also the right age too. He's only 16. Going even farther down the ladder, the driver with maybe the best chance to be the next American Formula 1 driver is Yugo Chukwu. The 13-year-old karting sensation and McLaren Junior Team driver could be the next American Formula 1 driver. That's the sell though. McLaren signed him and he's killing it in karts, but he's 13. So it's really hard to guess.
Colton Herta will win his very first street course race. Colton Herta.
My dark horse pick here is Colton Herta, the young IndyCar star. At just 21 years old, Herta has established himself as a title contender in IndyCar, finishing 3rd last season. He's also got the youth pedigree. He finished 3rd in the British F4, and 3rd in the Euro Formula Series, and 2nd in the Spanish F3 Series, as well as finishing 2nd and 3rd in Indy Lights, which is the highest rung on the road to Indy ladder. Herta also has the blessing from Mario Andretti, who said that he should be the next American Formula 1 driver. Herta also drives for Andretti Motorsports and is sponsored, so I figure he could probably figure out the financial part of this. But that's it. Those 9 drivers are who I think have the best shot of making it to Formula 1. But it's time for my final verdict. Who do I think will be the next American Formula 1 driver? Based on all the information laid out, based on the career paths of the most recent Formula 1 drivers, I'm going with Jack Crawford.
It's the Red Bull Junior exits Rivata 2. That checkered flag is about to wave. Jetpack Jack Crawford, Texas.
He's shown he can win races at the youth level. He's already broken through to F3 at the age of 16. And based on his success in Euro Formula, I'd bet he can take a large leap forward in 1 or 2 more seasons in Formula 3 before moving to F2. He's got the time and he's got the backing. He's also got more opportunity. Red Bull are in a unique position compared to the other F1 teams. They have 4 seats available on the Formula 1 grid and also some of the highest rate of driver turnover. So based on the opportunity, based on his talent, based on his age, and based on a little luck, I think Jack Crawford is going to be America's next Formula 1 driver. As much as Logan Sargent has been the most successful, without the backing, I don't think most drivers can make it. As for Herta, though he's my dark horse and probably has the quickest path to Formula 1 of any of these other drivers, I don't see a Formula 1 team taking a risk on him unless he goes to Formula 2, which seems unrealistic for his career path. Yugo is like the shining light of American drivers, but he's too young, and there are way too many variables for us to predict. Sure, he could end up being Lewis Hamilton, or He could end up never transitioning from karts to cars. Who knows? But he does seem to have the talent, and the connection with McLaren is priceless. But I'm going to stick with Jetpack Jack Crawford as the next American Formula One driver.
If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up the menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
But that's it for the third and final episode of the American Formula One Driver Podcast. This has been a reporting project by me, Sam Albuquerque, as part of Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism and their Masters in Editorial Journalism program. A big shout out to the Masters Committee for this opportunity, and a special thanks to my professor, Jay Adande, for the guidance throughout the project. We hope you all enjoyed it. We'll talk to you soon.